Welcome to the Effective Writing Center's Google Hangout workshop on writer's block. First, you'll be happy to know that there's really no such thing as writer's block. It's one of those wastebasket terms we use to avoid talking about something we don't fully understand. What we do understand are writer's techniques, some that help, some that don't. Also, the idea of a block conjures up a real obstacle that must be overcome with great strength and struggle in order to win a victory over an outside force. Nothing could be further from the truth. Here's why. Writing and talking flow from the same human competency, human language. If you can speak fluently, you can write fluently. It's a piece of cake. Any neurologist worth his or her brain scan will tell you that. Born within us all is the innate capacity to do both with equal ease if we have the right training. But while our moms did a great job with the talking part, unfortunately, schools have let us down. So, what corrupts the writing part of our natural language ability? Why do sometimes words hide from us in the shadows? Our stomachs curl, our anxiety spikes, and suddenly cleaning the attic sounds like a whole lot of fun. One thing and one thing only: bad habits. In this workshop, we're going to address one of those bad habits and address it with a specific proven strategy. At the end, we hope you'll at least be more open to the notion that talking and writing are natural acts, the only significant difference being what body parts you move, your fingers or your mouth. Perhaps the most common mistake when trying to get started on a first draft is head writing. Head writing is the attempt to compose, edit, and polish a sentence in your head before writing it down. The problem with head writing is that it forces you to perform two mutually exclusive mental tasks at the same time: composing, then editing what was just composed. Now, where does this bad habit come from? At least two places. First is decades of school writing, where your main goal is one draft writing. You wait until the night before, write something down, read it over once, turn it in, and hope for the best. This is the approach most students take to school writing assignments, for better or for worse. And that leads to the second source of the habit, the belief that professional writers do just that: dash something off, send it in, and wait for the royalty checks to come rolling in. That is a total myth. Even the greatest writer in the English language, William Shakespeare, wrote drafts, got feedback from actors and directors, then kept writing more and more drafts until finally the play was performed. Now, why wasn't Shakespeare a head writer? Because he knew there was a time for composing and a time for editing. Composing is when you explore and discover thoughts and feelings, using language creatively as a tool for exploration and discovery. Then, and only then, would come editing, a time for evaluating what has been written, tearing it apart, correcting it, polishing it. Notice the past tense: has been written. How can you edit something you haven't written yet? Very, very difficultly. But that is exactly what head writers try to do, and it's the source of their anxiety, frustration, and avoidance of writing. Now, modern brain science backs this up. You know that our brain has two separate hemispheres, right and left. The right hemisphere is responsible for creativity, intuition, holistic thought, and insight. The left hemisphere is the seat of logic. It breaks the whole into parts for analysis and criticism. The left hemisphere relies on set rules and patterns. Indeed, science in the early 90s established that Over-reliance and activity in the left hemisphere can even block communication from the right. When head writing, we're actually creating a condition in our cells called cross-hemispheric interference, which is a fancy neurological term for writer's block. The good news is there's a cure. I call it block writing. The purpose of block writing is to force the writer into separating the act of composing from the act of editing, giving room for what gives life to any writing, that personal creation. Now, here's how block writing works. Step 1. After all your pre-writing activities, choose a section of the outline to work on. You can start anywhere. It doesn't have to be the intro. Step 2. Choose a specific time frame. 5 minutes is good if you haven't done this before. Step 3. Start the timer and begin writing as fast as you can. Do not stop writing until the set period of time ends or you have written that section, whichever comes first. Now, other rules include, once you've begun putting down words, do not stop for anything. Do not interrupt the flow, even if it means typing things like, okay, I can't think of anything to say right now. In other words, do whatever you have to keep your fingers moving. Another rule, do not stop to reread or edit what you've written until the block session is over. For this to work, don't cheat. Don't stop. Don't second guess. Don't worry about grammar, punctuation, or style. For once in your life, listen to the voice in your head without filtering it or editing it. William Faulkner won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1949. When teaching at the University of Virginia, he was asked about his writing process, and this is what he said. I follow my characters around and write down every damn thing they say. By using block writing to separate the act of composing from the act of editing, maybe you won't win any Nobel Prizes, but you will start to listen to that creative, authentic voice you hear and let it speak its piece before you stop and try to edit it. When you do, you might just be surprised by what you hear.